violence in the defense of people's right to live and exist without fear and violence that's meant to harm people simply because they exist. Let's stop equating that. And this not even proto, but this pseudo, that's what I'm looking for. This pseudo pacifism that disavows all violence, that's peddled by the most violent government in the entire history of mankind, the United States government. I mean, every time you see a president, they say, oh, we want to condemn violence on all sides. Bruh, if like Cornel West said, the police left the scene, and had it not been for Antifa, which we'll talk about in a minute, and anarchists, who I generally disagree with, but if it had not been for them, Cornel West and all the ministers and laymen who were out there on behalf of hurting and marginalized people would have been killed, or at least crushed, were the exact words of Cornel West. And how were they protected? They were protected by people who were willing to put their bodies and their freedom on the line to defend them. You cannot compare the violence that was used by Antifa to defend those ministers and those people to the violence that is being used to hurt those people. Why? I don't understand why that's not rocket science. No, I personally would love a world in which we did not have to have any violence whatsoever. I would. I honestly would. That would be. But every now and then, people got to catch these hands. I mean, if somebody, let's just bring it home. Somebody breaks into your home, are you going to sit there and be like, I condemn all types of violence? No, you're gonna pull your weapon and blow them away, or they're gonna catch those hands. I mean, it's not rocket science. If you see somebody, it's like the journalists. Some journalists who saw that young black man being beat up, some of them just sat there and watched him getting beat up. Versus others who got involved and got physically and violently involved to keep him from getting killed. And I don't want to do this disclaimer, because I would rather, be honest with you, I would rather people just be mad at me for taking up for Antifa than for me to give this disclaimer. But I want you to know, on their worst days, Antifa is better than Nazis and fascists and white supremacists and the alt-right. On their worst days. And you can go check my backlog. That's all I would say. You can go on check my backlog. Go to January 20th, 2017, Inauguration Day, and you can see my anger and frustration with Antifa for the same reasons that many people have a problem with Antifa. However, you cannot compare the violence that they used on Saturday to defend hurting and marginalized people to the violence that these people perpetrated, these Nazis perpetrated in hopes of harming people simply because they exist. Worst days, when they're destroying property and they got no good reason to be destroying property. On their worst days, when they're trying to incite, they're trying to fight the police, and I don't even know what the hell they're trying to fight the police for. Like, why are you fighting the police, Antifa? There's no reason at all. Goddamn, not today. Worst days. They're not worse. They can't even be compared to the violence that we saw from those Nazis on Saturday for the express reason of hurting marginalized people. But because, I don't even care. I mean, I don't care if you're one of those people like, oh, I can't believe you're kicking up for Antifa. I believe in what's right. And what's right based on the world as I see it. And the world as I see it recognizes the fact that sometimes there must be violence in order to stop a greater violence. And I don't think that's not rocket science, is it? I don't see why that's difficult for people to understand. So again, I'll say this, and this is the last thing I'm going to say about Antifa, because we got like 30 things to get through tonight. Last thing I'm going to say about Antifa is, on their worst days, even on the days when I criticize them vehemently, they are still light years and a lifetime better than anything that you saw on Saturday from those alt-right scum Nazi bastards.